Hello, in this seminar, we are going to solve equations by using the quadratic formula. It's a new formula we can use, and it doesn't matter if our equation can be factored or not. We're going to solve it anyway. We're going to also use something called the discriminant to find how many solutions the quadratic equation has. You're really going to have to concentrate attending to precision on this one because there's a lot of detailed work when you use the quadratic formula. So the vocabulary we have is a quadratic formula, and let's start with what it is. The quadratic formula has to be written in standard form, like when we graphed it or when we factored it. It has to equal to 0. Now, the number in front of x squared is a. We've talked about the number in front of x is b. Our constant term is c. This is the one formula we're going to use, c. So it goes negative b, opposite of b actually, plus or minus, there's two answers usually, the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You need to memorize this. I will not put this formula on the test. You have to know it. Since you have to know it, let's find out a way to help us remember it. And we got a song. I like those songs. It goes to Pop Goes the Weasel. So it goes x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And once again, probably the easiest way to memorize it besides the song is just use it. Every time you have to use the quadratic formula, write this formula down so you have it. So let's do a problem together. Let's take a look at example 1. Now notice on this problem it does not equal to 0. So the first thing we have to do is we have to write this in standard form. So I'm going to subtract 35 from both sides. Notice there are no like terms on the left side. So it's x squared. I'm going to write it over here because I'm going to need some room. I suggest you do the same thing. Minus 2x minus 35 equals 0. So in this problem, a is 1, because the number in front of x squared is 1. The number in front of x is negative 2, so that's going to throw a little wrench at us. So b is negative 2, and then c is negative 35. Since we're doing it the first time, let's write down the formula. So we have it. So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root, my pen's not working, of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Notice, that's how I sing the song when I write it down. Since x is negative 2, the opposite of negative 2 would be a positive 2. So we're going to go 2 plus or minus, and we'll go 2 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 35. All over, notice it's not just over part of it, it's all over 2 times a, which is 1. Now we're just going to simplify that. So I'm going to go 2 plus or minus. 2 squared is 4. A negative times a negative is a positive. So it's 4 times 35, which is 140. So I'll go 4 plus 140 all over 2. Simplify a little bit more. 2 plus or minus the square root of 144. My pen does not want to write for some reason. Let me grab a different pen here because it's being a pain. If I can find my pen. There we go. I think my pen just died and I need to charge it. So let me erase this other stuff so it makes it a little bit easier to see. So I have the square root of 144 all over 2. Well, I know the square root of 144. That one works out really nice. That's 12, isn't it? All over 2. Now, what happens is I'm going to do it 2 times. One time I'm going to add 2 plus 12. 2 plus 12 is 14. 14 over 2 gives me 7. And then I'll go 2 minus 12. 2 minus 12 is negative 10 over 2 gives me negative 5. So my answer, there's 2 answers, so I'll say x equals 7 or negative 5. A lot of times you'll see it written in set notation because we have more than one answer. And that's it. Now, what happens if it doesn't work out real nice? Let's take a look at example 2. Now in example 2, notice A is 2, B is negative 2, and C is negative 5. Very similar to what we just did, isn't it? So, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Almost forgot to write my all over there. So on this one, b is negative 2, so I have positive 2 plus or minus. On the last one, it was negative 2, wasn't it? But I square that, so it's still 4. So I'll go the square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is negative 5, all over 2 times 2. So I get 2 plus or minus, I'll go negative 2 squared is 4. A negative times a negative, I treat the minus sign as a negative when I'm multiplying it. So I have a negative 4 times a positive 2 times a negative 5. So I get plus 8 times 5 is 40. All over 2 times 2, which is 4. Now, simplify that a little bit more. So I get 2 plus or minus the square root of 44 all over 4. Now, square root of 44 is not simplified. So I'm going to simplify the square root of 44. Notice that is the square root of 2 times the square root of 22. The square root of 22 is the square root of 2 times the square root of 11. So now it's the square root of 2 squared times the square root of 11, or 2 square roots of 11. So let's say 2 plus or minus 2 square roots of 11 all over 4. Now, I can simplify that a little bit because notice we can factor a 2 out. So I'll go 2 parentheses 1 plus or minus the square root of 11 all over 4. And 2 goes into 4 twice. So in other words, my answer is 1 plus or minus the square root of 11 all over 2. That's the exact answer. And it's fine to do the exact answer. If they want the exact answer, that's what I want. Or you can use your calculator and take 1 plus or minus the square root of 11 over 2. So let me pull up my calculator here. I probably got a few things open. I'd like to use a scientific calculator on this one because I don't like to use overkill. Okay, here we go. So I'll go 1 plus the square root of 11. And I think I'll put that in parentheses because I want to find that answer first. And I'll divide that answer by 2. And notice I get 2.16. So I could say my answer, x rounded, is 2.16. Or I could do minus the square root of 11. So I just changed my plus sign to a minus sign here. And I get negative 1.16. Now, I will tell you I prefer this one because that's the exact answer. But depending if you're doing an application problem or not, you might want to do the decimal. Look at the directions. If the directions tell you to round, round. If the answer tells you, or the problem says write the exact answer, write the exact answer. Let's take a look at another one. One with a little bit bigger numbers. So first off, I want a minus 4 from both sides. So I get 5x squared minus 8x minus 4 equals 0. So it tells me A is 5, B is negative 8, and C is negative 4. So then I'll say x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So now, let's do a problem. The opposite of negative 8 is positive 8 plus or minus negative 8 squared minus 4 times a, which is 5, times c, which is negative 4, all over 2 times a, which is 5. Now we'll simplify that, so I get 8 plus or minus negative 8 squared is 64. A negative times a positive times a negative is a positive. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 5 is 80. Or 4 times 5 is 20, times 4 is 80. All over 2 times 5, which is 10. Simplify that a little bit more. I go 8 plus or minus, and 80 plus 64. Oh, look how nice that is. 144 all over 10. So then I'll get x to be 8 plus or minus 12 all over 10. Then I'll do it twice. 8 plus 12 is 20 divided by 10. Well, that's 2. 8 minus 12 is negative 4 all over 10. Gives me negative 2/5. So x equals 2. Let me put the braces in there. 2 and negative 2/5. And there's your answer for that one.